our planet tells its most dramatic story in stone. It is a story of continents in motion, of oceans vanished, and of forces so immense they have buckled the very crust of the earth. Nowhere is this story written more majestically than here. This is the Himalaya, the abode of snows. A mountain range that is not merely a feature on the landscape, but a landscape in itself. A world of staggering verticals stretching over 2,400 kilometers and separating the plains of the Indian subcontinent from the high, arid plateau of Tibet. This is a young range, geologically speaking, but its origins lie in a slow-motion collision of epic proportions. More than 50 million years ago, a tectonic plate carrying the landmass of ancient India began its inexorable journey north, closing the Tethys Sea that lay between it and the great continent of Asia. The impact was not a single event, but a continuous, grinding process of uplift that is still active today, pushing these peaks skyward, millimetre by millimetre. What was once a seabed is now the roof of the world, a place of superlatives, holding the planet's 14 highest mountains, including the pinnacle of our world, Mount Everest. The evidence for this colossal transformation is etched into the highest cliffs. Here, in rocks that touch the stratosphere, paleontologists find the fossilized remains of ancient sea creatures, coiled ammonites, and the shells of marine life that once populated the floor of the Tethys. The collision was not a gentle docking, but a crumpling of terrestrial titans. The Indian plate, refusing to be subdued, is still forcing its way north, diving beneath the Asian plate. This subterranean battle is the engine of the Himalaya, a constant source of seismic energy that makes this one of the most geologically active regions on Earth. A landscape not just created, but being created before our very eyes. The sheer scale of the Himalaya creates not one environment, but a multitude of them, stacked vertically upon one another. In the south, the foothills are draped in subtropical forests, humid and teeming with life. As one ascends, these give way to temperate belts of oak, pine, and rhododendron. Higher still, the trees thin out into vast alpine meadows that for a few brief months are carpeted in a riot of colour. Above this lies the alpine zone, a world of rock, ice and tenacious low-growing plants. And finally there is the permanent realm of snow and glacier, an Arctic desert in the sky. This is the Earth's third pole, a frozen reservoir containing the largest body of ice outside the polar regions, whose seasonal melt feeds the great rivers, the Indus, the Ganges, the Brahmaputra, that sustain the lives of nearly a third of all humanity. Yet for the creatures that live within the range itself, this is a land of profound challenge. Life here is governed by a trinity of pressures: altitude, topography, and extreme seasonality. The air is thin, holding less oxygen with every upward meter, demanding specialized respiratory and circulatory systems. The terrain is a relentless negotiation with gravity, favoring the agile and sure-footed. And the seasons swing between a brief, explosive summer and a long, unforgiving winter that locks the landscape in a frozen stillness. To exist here requires more than strength. It requires a set of intricate adaptations honed over countless generations. This is not a gentle kingdom. It is a vertical arena where the rules are written by the sun, the rock, and the snow. Join us as we journey through a full year in this majestic and unforgiving wilderness to witness the intimate stories of the creatures who call the great Himalaya home. Winter descends upon the Himalaya not as a gentle blanket, but as an invading force. The monsoon has long since retreated and the jet stream dips south, bringing with it Siberian cold. The sun, a pale disk in a brilliant blue sky, offers little warmth. Temperatures on the high slopes plummet to 40 degrees below zero, and the biting wind makes it feel colder still. A great stillness falls over the high country, a silence so profound it seems to have weight. For many of the mountain's residents, this is a time of retreat to lower altitudes or into the deep slumber of hibernation. But for those who remain, it is the ultimate test of endurance. Life narrows to a singular elemental focus, the conservation of energy, the acquisition of food, and the simple, brutal art of survival. On a wind-scoured ridge nearly 5,000 meters above sea level, a ghost materializes from the rockscape, the snow leopard. This is its kingdom, a vast vertical territory where it reigns as the undisputed apex predator. But winter offers no special dispensation. Its magnificent coat, a dense, woolly underfur up to 5 centimeters thick, is protected by longer guard hairs, providing insulation against the savage cold. Its smoky grey colour, patterned with a constellation of dark, cloud-like rosettes, renders it almost perfectly invisible against the lichen-covered cliffs and snowfields. It is a creature of shadow and stone. Its very physiology is a masterclass in high-altitude adaptation. The nasal cavity is unusually large, a complex bone-supported structure that warms and humidifies the frigid, dry air before it reaches the lungs. The chest cavity itself is immense, housing powerful lungs and a robust heart to extract what little oxygen the thin atmosphere offers. Its blood contains a high concentration of red blood cells, maximizing oxygen transport. Its paws, astonishingly broad and thickly furred on the soles, act as natural snowshoes, distributing its weight and allowing for silent, phantom-like movement across the snow. And its tail, remarkably long and thick, almost the length of its body, is a multi-purpose marvel, a crucial counterbalance when navigating treacherous ledges, a rudder during a high-speed chase, and a warm, insulating wrap to shield its face and paws from frostbite when at rest.
You're looking at a masterpiece of high-altitude evolution. Every part of it, the big nose, the powerful lungs, the snowshoe paws, is a perfect tool for life up here. The mountain didn't just shape it, it designed it from scratch.
The leopard's winter is a life lived on a razor-thin energy budget. Its territory may span hundreds of square kilometers, a vastness dictated not by choice, but by the sparse distribution of its prey. It moves with a deliberate energy-conserving grace, using ridgelines as vantage points to scan the slopes below. Its days are a patient cycle of patrolling, observing, and resting. It will often remain in one spot for hours, a silent, motionless observer, its golden eyes missing nothing. The cold does not seem to touch it, insulated in its dense fur, but the gnawing reality of hunger is a constant motivating pressure. Its primary quarry is the baral, or blue sheep. These are not true sheep, but a unique intermediate species between sheep and goats, and they are masters of this vertical world. A herd of baral moves across a steep, snow-dusted cliff face with an assurance that defies gravity. Their hooves are anatomical marvels with a sharp, hard outer rim that can grip the smallest of rock ledges, while soft, pliable inner pads act like high-friction brakes. Their stocky, muscular bodies are low to the ground, providing a stable center of gravity that allows them to navigate slopes that would be impassable for nearly any other large mammal. For the baral, winter is a relentless search for forage. They use their hooves and powerful muzzles to sweep away snow, creating craters to expose the dried grasses and hardy alpine plants beneath. This activity is energy-intensive and exposes them to the elements, but there is no other choice. As ruminants, their four-chambered stomachs are efficient at extracting nutrients from this tough, fibrous vegetation. The herd provides a degree of safety. Many eyes are better than two for spotting the approach of a predator. They remain perpetually vigilant, a rhythm of feed and scan. A sharp, whistling alarm call from a single individual is enough to send the entire herd scrambling up seemingly impossible inclines, their hooves striking sparks from the rock. The snow leopard has spotted this herd. From its perch a kilometre away, it begins its approach. It does not charge. That would be a foolish waste of precious energy in the thin air. Instead, it begins a stalk that is the embodiment of patience and strategy. It descends from the ridge, using a deep ravine to mask its movement. It is acutely aware of the wind, ensuring its scent is carried away from its quarry. The process may take hours. It flows over the terrain, staying low, its movements fluid and economical. Every rock, every shadow, every contour in the land is used to its advantage. It must get within 30 meters for its attack to have a high chance of success. Now, less than 100 meters away, it freezes behind a rocky outcrop. Only the slightest twitch of its tail betrays its coiled tension. The baral are still feeding, unaware. The leopard's focus narrows to a single individual, one that has strayed slightly from the main group, its head down, engrossed in its search for food. The final phase is a blur of calculated violence. It bursts from its cover, not with a roar, but in absolute silence. Its powerful hind legs, longer than its forelegs, propel it forward in immense bounds, covering the intervening distance in seconds. The baral, startled at the last moment, scatters in panic, but the leopard's trajectory is locked. It closes the distance, and with a final leap it lands on the baral's back, its sharp, recurved claws sinking into the hide for purchase. Its jaws, evolved for a precise and lethal bite, find the nape of the neck, severing the spinal cord. The struggle is brief. A successful elimination is a vital victory. The leopard will drag the carcass, which may be more than twice its own weight, to a secluded spot, often a small cave or overhang, protecting it from scavengers. This meal will sustain it for up to a week, a crucial reprieve from the constant search for food. But a failed hunt, a miscalculation, a moment of hesitation means a devastating energy deficit. In the Himalayan winter, the line between life and death is drawn with every hunt. Higher still, another specialist circles in the freezing air, the lammergeier or bearded vulture. This is no ordinary scavenger. With a wingspan approaching 3 meters, it is one of the largest birds of the old world, a true monarch of the skies. While other vultures feast on soft tissue, the lammergeier has evolved a unique and crucial niche. It is an osteophage, a bone eater. Its diet consists of up to 90% bone. It soars effortlessly on thermal updrafts, its keen eyes scanning the mountainsides below, not for carcasses, but for the remains of leftovers from a predator's catch left by the snow leopard. When it locates a skeleton, it descends. Smaller bones are swallowed whole. Its stomach acid is extraordinarily powerful, with a pH close to 1, capable of dissolving solid bone in under 24 hours. For larger bones, the lammergeier employs a remarkable technique, a behavior that requires intelligence, foresight, and a profound understanding of its physical environment. It grasps a heavy bone, like a femur, in its talons, spirals high into the air, and positions itself above a traditional patch of rock known as an ossuary, or bone-dropping site. It then releases the bone, letting it fall and shatter on the rocks below. The bird then lands to feed on the exposed, nutrient-rich marrow. This strategy unlocks a food source unavailable to any other creature, allowing the lammergeier to thrive in a season of extreme scarcity. Deeper in the winter forests, a more secretive creature navigates the snows, the musk deer. This small primitive deer is a solitary survivor. Lacking antlers, the male is instead armed with a pair of long fang-like canines that protrude from its upper jaw. Its survival strategy is not herd defense but stealth. Its powerful hind legs are longer than its front legs, giving it a hunched appearance and making it an exceptional jumper. Able to change direction abruptly in mid-air to evade predators. It feeds at dawn and dusk on lichens, moss and other sparse vegetation that other herbivores ignore. It is a creature of the shadows, a quiet presence in the winter woods, but survival in the Himalayan winter is not just the domain of fur-clad mammals. In the valleys below, where glacial rivers have carved deep arteries through the rock, another kind of specialist endures, the ibisbill. It is a bizarre and beautiful bird, a wading bird that seems out of place in this frozen landscape. With its slate-grey plumage, striking white head, and a long, sickle-shaped bill of brilliant crimson, it is a flash of colour against the monochrome world. Unlike almost every other shorebird, the ibisbill does not migrate. It is a year-round resident of these fast-flowing, high-altitude rivers. Its entire existence depends on a niche that is unavailable to any other creature. While the riverbanks may be frozen solid, the turbulent, highly oxygenated water in the main channel rarely freezes completely. This is the ibisbill's larder. Wading into the frigid shallows, it uses its unique decurved bill as a specialized tool, probing and picking beneath the river stones, feeling for the aquatic larvae of stoneflies and mayflies that cling to the undersides. Each stone turned is a gamble of energy spent against calories gained. The bird works methodically, its movements economical, its entire focus on the hunt beneath the rushing water. It is a life lived on the very edge, entirely dependent on the physics of water flow and the life cycles of hidden insects. The ibisbill is a quiet testament to evolution's ability to find opportunity in the most extreme and seemingly inhospitable corners of the world, a fragile survivor in a kingdom of ice and stone. After months of frozen silence, a change begins. It is subtle at first, the slight lengthening of the days, a marginal softening of the air's sharp edge, but soon the change accelerates. The sun climbs higher and its rays, now armed with growing power, begin to wage war on the ice. Spring in the Himalaya is not a gentle affair, it is a violent thaw. Water, the agent of life, is unlocked. It drips from icicles, trickles beneath the snowpack, and gathers to swell the frozen streams into raging torrents. The sound of the mountains changes from the whistle of wind to the roar of water. This is a season of rebirth, but also of instability and danger as avalanches scour the slopes and flash floods reshape the valley floors. But this violent rush of water is not lifeless. Within these turbulent icy currents, another drama of endurance unfolds. This is the realm of the snow trout. Not a true trout, but a species of cyprinid fish uniquely adapted to high-altitude rivers, it has spent the winter in the deeper, slower pools of the lower valleys. Now driven by an ancient instinct, it begins a grueling upstream migration, a Himalayan equivalent of the salmon run. Every aspect of its body is designed for this battle against the torrent. Its body is streamlined and powerful, and its fins are large, allowing it to grip the current. Its mouth is located on the underside of its head, fringed with tough cartilage that allows it to scrape algae and diatoms from the surface of submerged rocks, its primary food source. As they ascend, they navigate a liquid obstacle course, leaping up small waterfalls and using the slack water behind boulders to rest before the next surge. They seek the clean, highly oxygenated waters of the newly thawed tributaries to spawn, laying their eggs in gravel beds where they will be safe from the silt and turbulence of the main river. This journey is perilous. The physical exertion is immense, and they are a target for predators. Otters patrol the banks, and birds like the ibisbill and brown dipper stand ready to snatch any fish that strays too close to the surface. For the snow trout, spring is a race against the current, a powerful imperative to deliver the next generation to the headwaters of the world, ensuring that life continues not just on the slopes of the Himalaya, but within its very veins. The receding snow line triggers a cascade of activity. In the dense bamboo and rhododendron forests of the eastern Himalaya, a creature emerges from its winter torpor. The red panda, neither a bear nor a true panda. It belongs to its own unique taxonomic family, the Ailuridae. It is a solitary and largely crepuscular animal, spending its days curled up in tree hollows, its long, bushy, ringed tail wrapped around itself for warmth and camouflage. This arboreal specialist faces a constant energy crisis, an evolutionary puzzle rooted in its biology. It has the digestive system of a carnivore, yet its diet is almost exclusively vegetarian. This means its short, simple gut is ill-equipped to break down the tough cellulose in its primary food source, bamboo. To survive on such a low-calorie diet, the red panda must consume up to 30% of its body weight daily. It compensates for this inefficiency with an exceptionally low metabolic rate, almost as slow as a tree sloth's, and by spending up to 13 hours a day in a state of slow-motion foraging. It moves through the forest canopy with a quiet, deliberate agility. Its semi-retractable claws give it excellent grip on branches, and it uses its long tail as a masterful tool for balance. Its wrists possess a unique adaptation, a false thumb, which is an extension of the wrist bone that aids in gripping bamboo stalks and manipulating leaves. A female who mated in late winter is now searching for a suitable den, a hollow tree, or a rock crevice where she will give birth to her litter. Her cubs, usually one or two, will be born blind and utterly dependent. For the next few months, her solitary life will be bound to this single crucial location, a constant shuttle between foraging for herself and caring for her hidden, vulnerable young in a world where predators like martens and leopards are a constant threat. Further west, in the high-altitude wetlands of Ladakh and Tibet, another arrival signals the true turning of the season. The black-necked crane. These magnificent birds, standing over a meter tall, have completed one of nature's most arduous migrations. Their journey takes them over the towering, snow-covered peaks of the Himalaya, an astonishing feat of endurance at altitudes where oxygen is scarce and weather is treacherous. Their arrival is a celebrated event, both in the natural world and in local human cultures, where they are revered as symbols of good fortune and marital fidelity. The wetlands, fed by glacial meltwater, are beginning to thaw, exposing the roots, tubers, and small invertebrates that the cranes will feed on. They arrive in pairs, their bonds often lasting a lifetime. Their reunion, or the formation of a new pair, is announced by one of the most elegant and complex performances in the animal kingdom, the courtship dance. The male and female face each other, their red crowns vivid against their stark black and white plumage. They begin a synchronized ballet of bowing, leaping, and calling. They extend their great wings, toss pieces of vegetation into the air with their beaks, and emit a loud, trumpeting unison call that echoes across the silent valley.
Don't mistake it for a simple show. That dance is a biological necessity. It aligns their hormones and strengthens their pair bond. In this harsh place, with such a brief window to breed, that solid partnership is everything.
Once the bond is established, they begin the work of building a nest, a large floating platform of mud and vegetation in the shallow, protective waters of the marsh. This location provides a natural moat against terrestrial predators like the Tibetan fox. Here, the female will lay 2 eggs, but in this harsh environment, competition between the siblings and the sheer difficulty of finding enough food means usually only one chick will survive. From the moment the first egg is laid, their lives will be a cycle of shared incubation, vigilant defense of their territory, and the constant search for food to sustain themselves through the demanding weeks ahead. On the forested slopes below the snow line, the season's renewal takes on a more vibrant, colourful form. The male Himalayan monal, a species of pheasant, begins its spectacular display. For most of the year, this bird is relatively inconspicuous, foraging quietly on the forest floor for roots and insects. But in spring, the male is transformed into a living jewel. His plumage is an iridescent marvel of metallic blues, greens, purples and reds, a result of the microscopic structure of his feathers that refracts light. He chooses a prominent display area, often a sun-dappled clearing, and begins his courtship performance. He fans his coppery tail, puffs out the striking white patch on his back, and bobs his head, showing off his magnificent multicolored crest. He emits a series of loud, ringing calls to attract the attention of the much more modestly plumed females. The display is a signal of his genetic fitness. The brightness of his plumage and the energy of his dance are honest indicators of his health and his ability to thrive in this environment, signaling that he carries good genes. A female, suitably impressed, will allow him to mate, after which she will depart to build a simple scrape nest on the ground, hidden in dense undergrowth. She alone will incubate the eggs and raise the chicks. Her drab, mottled brown plumage, so different from the male's, is now her greatest asset. It is the camouflage that will keep her and her future offspring hidden from the sharp eyes of predators like the golden eagle or the leopard cat. For the monal, as for the crane and the red panda, spring is a fleeting window, a critical time for ensuring the next generation in the high Himalaya. As the sun gains strength, it warms not just the air but the very rock of the mountains. On sun-drenched ledges and south-facing slopes, another form of life, ancient and cold-blooded, is stirred from its winter torpor. The Himalayan rock agama, these lizards, clad in scales of muted grey and brown, emerge from deep crevices where they have spent months in a state of suspended animation. For them, life is entirely dictated by the sun. Their first priority is to bask, positioning their flattened bodies perpendicular to the sun's rays to absorb as much thermal energy as possible. This external heat source kick-starts their metabolism, allowing them to move, hunt and reproduce. As their body temperature rises, the males transform. Their heads and shoulders flush with vibrant shades of blue and orange, a striking advertisement of their fitness. They become fiercely territorial, claiming the best basking rocks and performing energetic push-up displays to warn off rivals and court the more drably coloured females. Their re-emergence is timed to coincide with the explosion of insect life that follows the thaw. They are voracious predators of ants, beetles and other invertebrates, darting from their rocky perches with surprising speed to snatch a meal. In a world dominated by stories of warm-blooded endurance, the rock agama's survival is a masterclass in patience and opportunism, a life lived in thrall to the sun, seizing a brief, warm window to fulfill the entire cycle of life before the cold returns. As spring gives way to summer, the mechanism that triggers the great monsoon deluge begins. The vast high-altitude expanse of the Tibetan plateau heats up far more quickly than the surrounding Indian Ocean, creating an immense low-pressure thermal engine. This engine draws the warm, moisture-saturated air from the seas to the south in a slow-motion atmospheric invasion that will drench the southern and eastern slopes of the Himalaya for months. It is a season of explosive growth and a time of plenty. Its arrival at the Himalaya is one of nature's most dramatic confrontations. The mountain range stands as an impassable barrier, a 2,400-kilometer-long wall. Forced to rise, the moisture-laden air cools rapidly and its water vapor condenses into colossal cumulonimbus clouds that tower miles into the sky. The first sign is a change in the light, a humid haze that softens the sharp edges of the peaks. Then come the clouds pouring through the valleys like a grey flood. Finally, the rain begins. It is not a gentle shower, but a relentless, torrential downpour that can last for weeks. The sound of the rain becomes the sound of the world. Waterfalls that were mere trickles become raging cataracts, and the rivers swell into brown, churning torrents carrying boulders and trees. The south-facing slopes are drenched, triggering landslides that can remold a mountainside in minutes. But with this chaos comes an explosion of life. The landscape transforms from brown to an almost impossibly vibrant green. For the plants and animals of the Himalaya, the monsoon is both a deluge and a deliverance, the season that will fuel the entire year's growth. The monsoon's deluge is a catalyst for a botanical explosion. Dormant for months, seeds buried in the soil burst forth, and hillsides are suddenly cloaked in a new layer of verdant growth. Ferns uncurl their fiddleheads in the damp shade, and the air grows thick with the scent of wet earth and decaying leaves, a process that rapidly returns nutrients to the soil. This sudden abundance of plant life fuels an equally dramatic explosion in the invertebrate world. Caterpillars munch voraciously on fresh leaves, jewel-like beetles patrol plant stems, and the air hums with countless unseen insects, creating a protein-rich buffet for the region's insectivores, from small birds to lizards, fueling the entire food web from the ground up. The Himalayan brown bear. A rare and elusive subspecies of the brown bear, it is smaller and more reddish-brown than its North American cousins. Unlike the snow leopard, which is a pure carnivore, the brown bear is a consummate omnivore. Its summer is a continuous, wandering search for whatever food the landscape provides. Early summer finds it digging for nutritious roots and tubers with its powerful, long-clawed forepaws. As the season progresses, its diet shifts. It turns over rocks in search of insects and grubs and sniffs out the nests of small rodents. But one of its most important summer food sources is the Himalayan marmot. These large, social rodents live in extensive colonies of interconnected burrows across the alpine meadows. Their days are a balance of feeding on the lush vegetation and vigilant watchfulness. They live in family groups called coteries, and a designated sentry perched atop a prominent boulder acts as a lookout for the colony. Its sharp, piercing whistle and alarm call is the signal for every marmot to dive for the safety of its burrow. They even have different calls to distinguish between aerial threats like a golden eagle and terrestrial threats like the bear. The brown bear is the marmot's most formidable predator. The bear does not attempt to chase down the swift rodents. Instead, it uses its intelligence and immense strength. It will approach a colony and begin to excavate a burrow system. The digging is an act of incredible power. It sends showers of earth and rock flying, its claws tearing through the compacted soil. The marmots trapped underground panic. The bear, using its keen sense of hearing and smell, can pinpoint the location of a marmot in the complex tunnel system and will dig down directly to capture its prey. A successful excavation provides a high-protein meal, a crucial part of the bear's effort to build the fat reserves it will need for its long winter hibernation. The lives of these two species are inextricably linked. The bear's predation keeps the marmot population in check, preventing them from overgrazing the fragile alpine meadows. And the marmot's burrowing activity aerates the soil, creating conditions that allow diverse plant communities to flourish.
We call this a keystone interaction. The bear's hunt does more than feed it, it renews the whole meadow. It's a vital disturbance that creates biodiversity. You can't have this rich landscape without both of them.
But as the sun sets and a deep indigo twilight settles over the peaks, this landscape does not fall silent. A different cast of characters emerges to claim the night. The air cools and the familiar sounds of the day are replaced by a new chorus. In the high forests and alpine scrub, a pack of Himalayan wolves is on the move. Leaner and paler than their grey wolf cousins, they are ghosts of the high country, perfectly adapted to this low-oxygen, rugged terrain. The night hunt is a game of strategy and endurance. They move as a fluid, intelligent unit using ridgelines and ravines to travel unseen. Communication is key, a subtle gesture, a flick of the ear, a low whine as they coordinate their approach. Their primary advantage is not stealth, but teamwork. They can test a herd of baral or tar, looking for a weakness, an individual that is old, young, or unwary. Their eerie, haunting howls, which can carry for miles in the thin mountain air, are not just a challenge to rivals, but a way of binding the pack together, a declaration of their presence that defines their territory in the vastness of the dark. In the canopy of the temperate forest below, another, more solitary creature takes to the air, the red giant flying squirrel. This is one of the largest flying squirrels in the world, a cat-sized rodent with enormous dark eyes that give it exceptional night vision. It doesn't fly, but glides. Launching itself from a high branch, it unfolds a membrane of skin and fur, the patagium that stretches from its wrists to its ankles. By adjusting the tension in this membrane and using its long, bushy tail as a rudder, it can perform breathtaking feats of aerial agility, gliding for 100 meters or more to another tree. Its world is the high canopy, a three-dimensional maze that it navigates with silent grace. The night is a time for feasting on acorns, walnuts, and tender buds, away from the gaze of diurnal predators like eagles. It is a quiet, ethereal presence, a rustle in the leaves, a dark shape silhouetted for a moment against the moon. From the cooperative predator on the high slopes to the solitary glider in the treetops, the Himalayan night is a hidden arena, revealing that for half of its life, this majestic wilderness is another world entirely. While the large mammals dominate the landscape, a more delicate drama is unfolding underfoot. The brief summer warmth triggers a spectacular but short-lived explosion of wildflowers. The Valley of Flowers National Park in the western Himalaya is a testament to this phenomenon. For a few weeks, entire hillsides are painted with the colors of hundreds of species of flowers. The famous Himalayan blue poppy, potentillas, primulas, and orchids. And high on the rocky scree slopes, the rare Brahma Kamal blooms, its flower head protected by a cluster of translucent papery bracts that create a micro-greenhouse effect, protecting it from the cold. This bloom supports a unique community of high-altitude pollinators. Bumblebees, larger and hairier than their lowland relatives, are particularly well adapted to this environment. Their dense fur provides insulation, and they can generate their own body heat by vibrating their flight muscles, allowing them to fly in the cool mountain air. They are the primary pollinators for many of these specialized alpine plants, their fuzzy bodies efficiently transferring pollen from flower to flower as they forage for nectar. This relationship is critical. Without the bees, many of these plants could not reproduce, and without the flowers, the bees could not survive. In the rhododendron forests of the eastern Himalaya, summer brings challenges for the red panda mother. Her cubs, born in the spring, are now venturing out of the den for the first time. They're playful and curious, but also incredibly vulnerable. Their mother must lead them to feeding areas while remaining vigilant for predators like the yellow-throated marten or the common leopard, which shares these lower-altitude forests. Her daily routine becomes a demanding balancing act. She leads her cubs on foraging trips, teaching them which bamboo leaves are the most tender and nutritious. They communicate with a series of quiet twitters and whistles. If danger threatens, her first instinct is to lead the cubs up a tree where their climbing skills offer the best chance of escape. For the black-necked crane family in the high-altitude wetlands, summer is the season of parenting. The single chick that survived hatching is growing rapidly. Its parents are devoted, tirelessly searching the marsh for food, insects, small fish, frogs and plant tubers which they bring back to their demanding offspring. One parent will always remain close to the chick, guarding it from aerial predators like eagles or terrestrial threats like foxes. Their loud, resonant calls now serve not as a courtship duet, but as a constant communication link, maintaining family cohesion and warning of any potential danger. The chick must fledge and be strong enough for the arduous return migration before the first frosts of autumn begin to lock the wetlands in ice once more. The brief Himalayan summer with its flush of life and intense activity is a season lived against the clock. The sun's arc begins to dip lower in the sky. The vibrant green of summer gives way to hues of gold, rust and brown. The nights grow colder and the first frosts dust the high meadows, a stark reminder of what is to come. Autumn has arrived in the Himalaya. This is not a season of gentle decline, but one of urgent, almost frantic preparation. The window of abundance is closing, and for every creature, from the smallest rodent to the largest predator, autumn is a race against time. It is the final harvest before the long, lean months of winter. For the blue sheep, autumn is the season of the rut. The bachelor herds of rams, which have spent the summer feeding peacefully together, now break apart. A shift in their behavior is palpable, driven by a hormonal surge to seek out and compete for females. The dominant rams, with the largest, most impressive horns, become intensely aggressive. Their contests of strength are among the most dramatic spectacles in the mountains. They take place on the steep, unforgiving terrain that is the Baral's sanctuary. Rival males will face off, tilting their heads back before charging at one another. The resulting crash of their massive horns, a sound like a rifle shot, echoes through the valleys. These are not just clashes of brute force, they are tests of strength, balance and endurance. They will push and shove, their hooves scrabbling for purchase on the narrow ledges, sometimes for hours. The loser, exhausted or outmatched, will eventually break away, leaving the victor to claim breeding rights with the females in his group. This intense expenditure of energy comes at a high cost. The rams will enter winter with depleted fat reserves, their survival chances significantly diminished. It is a high price to pay for the chance to pass on their genes. For the snow leopard mother, autumn is the final stage of her cubs' education. The young leopards, born over a year ago, are now almost fully grown, but still lack the critical experience of their mother. They have followed her, watched her, and participated in hunts, but now they must perfect the skills that will allow them to survive alone. She leads them on patrols of their territory, teaching them to read the landscape, to identify the signs of prey, and to plan a stalk with lethal efficiency. We observe her with her two subadult offspring. She spots a lone male tar, another species of mountain goat, on a distant cliff. She does not immediately begin to hunt. Instead, she remains still, allowing the cubs to observe. She seems to be encouraging them to plan the approach. One cub begins to move, but its path is too exposed. The mother lets out a low chuffing sound, a form of quiet communication, and the cub freezes. She is teaching them patience, the most vital skill for a hunter that relies on ambush. Later, she initiates a hunt herself, but hangs back, allowing the cubs to join in the final charge. Their youthful eagerness almost betrays the element of surprise, but the mother's experience compensates, and she moves to secure the elimination. At the carcass, she allows them to feed first. These final lessons are crucial. Soon, she will begin to drive them away, her maternal instinct replaced by the territorial imperative to secure her hunting grounds. They must find their own territories and survive their first winter alone.
Think of it as a cultural inheritance. That hunting playbook has been refined over generations. A mother's death before the lessons are finished is catastrophic. It can wipe out her entire family line in one stroke.
Her maternal duties are almost complete. The survival of her lineage now depends on how well they have learned. Across the alpine meadows, a different kind of frantic activity is underway. The pika, a small hamster-like relative of the rabbit, is preparing for winter in a unique way. Pikas do not hibernate. Instead, they survive the winter by feeding on stored food. Autumn is their haymaking season. They scurry across the meadows, gathering grasses and wildflowers. They do not eat them immediately. Instead, they carefully lay them out on rocks in the sun to dry. This curing process prevents the vegetation from rotting and preserves its nutritional value. Once dried, the pika gathers the hay and carries it to its burrow, adding it to a large communal haystack that will serve as the colony's larder for the entire winter. This behavior is vital not just for the pika, but for the entire ecosystem. Pikas are a foundational prey species, a critical food source for a host of predators, including Tibetan foxes, weasels, and eagles. Their industrious autumn activity fuels the survival of many other animals through the coming winter. But as many creatures prepare for a static winter, others are embarking on one of the planet's great journeys. On the vast, high-altitude steppes of the Tibetan plateau, which border the northern flanks of the Himalaya, great herds of chiru, or Tibetan antelope, begin to move. For most of the year, they roam these arid plains, but as autumn deepens, the pregnant females undertake an arduous migration, a journey of hundreds of kilometers to traditional calving grounds in the Himalayan foothills. The chiru are built for this world. Their pale coats provide camouflage against the soil, and their unique, swollen snouts contain intricate nasal passages that warm the frigid air before it reaches their lungs, an adaptation remarkably similar to that of the snow leopard. The females arrive at their ancestral calving grounds and give birth in remarkable synchrony, flooding the landscape with vulnerable newborns. This is a strategy of predator saturation. With so many calves born at once, predators like wolves and foxes cannot possibly take them all. The calves are on their feet within minutes, ready to follow their mothers. Yet, this incredible spectacle is shadowed by a terrible threat. The chiru possesses an underfur known as chartouche, which is arguably the finest wool in the world. It is so fine that a shawl woven from it can be passed through a wedding ring, but this luxury comes at a lethal price. The wool cannot be sheared or combed, it can only be harvested by eliminating the animal. The demand for these illegal ring shawls fueled a poaching crisis that brought the species to the brink of extinction. While conservation efforts have helped populations recover, the chiru's epic autumn migration remains a fragile pilgrimage, a symbol of both the wild majesty of this high-altitude world and its vulnerability to human desires. For the migratory birds, autumn signals the urgency of departure. The black-necked cranes gather in larger flocks, their single chick now a strong flyer. They feed voraciously, building up the energy reserves needed for their incredible journey south, back over the Himalayan peaks. Their calls fill the air, a final chorus before the wetlands fall silent. The parent birds have succeeded. They have raised a new generation in one of the highest breeding grounds on Earth. Now they must lead it to safety before winter closes in. Autumn in the Himalaya is a season of poignant farewells and urgent purpose, the last deep breath before the world is once again locked in ice. For millennia, the story of the Himalaya has not been one of wildlife alone. Humans too have adapted to life in these formidable mountains. Traditional cultures, like the Sherpa of the Khumbu region or the Brokpa of Ladakh, have developed a deep symbiotic relationship with this environment. Their lives, their mythologies, and their spiritual beliefs have been interwoven with the seasonal rhythms of the mountains and the lives of its wild creatures. Their traditional practices often reflect a profound respect for the natural world. In many Buddhist communities, mountains are considered sacred deities, and certain animals, particularly the snow leopard, are seen as their manifestations or protectors. This spiritual ecology has for centuries provided a form of protection for wildlife, creating informal sanctuaries where animals could thrive alongside human settlements.
The truth is, to an outsider, it's just rock and snow. To us, it's sacred. The snow leopard isn't just a cat, it's a mountain spirit. We've learned from generations past that to live here, you must live in balance with them.
This intimate knowledge is born from a life of profound adaptation. Peoples like the Sherpa possess more than just cultural resilience. They are biologically attuned to the high mountains. Generations of life above 3,000 meters have sculpted their very physiology. Their bodies produce more nitric oxide, a compound that helps to dilate blood vessels, allowing blood to flow more easily and deliver oxygen more efficiently without the need for the higher concentrations of red blood cells seen in acclimatized lowlanders. Their agriculture, masterpieces of terrace farming carved into steep hillsides, prevents soil erosion and maximizes the use of scarce fertile land, a model of sustainable engineering. This deep balance, however, is being profoundly disturbed. The warming of the third pole is not an abstract future threat. It is a present-day reality with dangerous consequences. The accelerated melting of glaciers is leading to the formation of vast, unstable lakes of meltwater dammed by moraines of loose rock and ice. The risk of these dams failing, triggering a glacial lake outburst flood, is a terrifying prospect for communities downstream. Such a flood can release millions of cubic meters of water in an instant, a devastating wall of water, mud and boulders that can destroy villages, bridges and hydroelectric projects miles below. Furthermore, the upward creep of warmer temperatures is redrawing the ecological map of the mountains. Tree lines are advancing to higher altitudes, and species from lower elevations are moving up, encroaching on the specialized habitats of alpine creatures. This can introduce new diseases and new competitors, upsetting age-old ecological relationships. The construction of new roads, while vital for development, carves through pristine forests, creating linear barriers that fragment habitats. A road can become an impassable wall for a small, forest-dwelling creature like a red panda, isolating populations and shrinking their gene pool, a slow, invisible path towards local extinction. The wild yak, a massive bovid weighing up to 1,000 kilograms, is the ancestor of the domestic yak, an animal that is central to the survival of many Himalayan peoples, providing milk, wool, meat and transport. The relationship between the people and their livestock is one of interdependence, a model of survival in this challenging land. This ancient balance, however, is now facing unprecedented pressures. The Himalaya, seemingly timeless, is a fragile ecosystem changing at an alarming rate. Climate change is the most pervasive threat. The third pole is warming faster than the global average, and its retreating glaciers have profound consequences. Accelerated melting creates vast, unstable lakes dammed by loose rock, risking catastrophic outburst floods downstream. Warmer temperatures redraw the ecological map, allowing lower elevation species to encroach on alpine habitats, while erratic seasons disrupt life cycles tuned to ancient rhythms. Simultaneously, increased human activity brings its own challenges. The demand for roads and infrastructure fragments pristine forests, creating impassable barriers for wildlife. The growth of tourism, while providing economic benefits, can lead to habitat degradation, and overgrazing by domestic livestock increases competition with wild herbivores. This, in turn, can fuel human-wildlife conflict as predators are forced to seek easier prey. Yet amidst these challenges, there is hope. A growing awareness of the Himalayas' global importance has spurred conservation efforts across the region. National parks and wildlife sanctuaries have been established, providing vital refuges for threatened species. Organizations are working with local communities to find ways to mitigate human-wildlife conflict by creating predator-proof livestock corrals and insurance schemes that compensate herders for losses, reducing the incentive for retaliatory actions against snow leopards. Scientific research is providing crucial new insights into the lives of these elusive creatures. The use of GPS collars and remote camera traps is peeling back the veil of secrecy that has long shrouded the snow leopard's life, helping conservationists to identify critical corridors and design more effective protection strategies. This data is invaluable, creating heat maps of animal activity that reveal critical hunting grounds, seasonal territories, and the corridors they use to move between mountain ranges. Conservationists can then focus efforts on protecting these specific, vital pathways. Furthermore, they are deploying cutting-edge techniques like environmental DNA or eDNA. By simply collecting water or snow samples from a stream, scientists can analyze them for microscopic genetic traces shed by animals. This allows them to confirm the presence of an elusive creature like a snow leopard or a Pallas's cat in a vast area without ever laying eyes on it, providing a revolutionary, non-invasive tool for mapping biodiversity. These efforts recognize a fundamental truth. The future of Himalayan wildlife is inseparable from the future of the people who share its slopes. True conservation cannot be imposed from the outside. It must be built in partnership with the local communities who are the ancestral custodians of this landscape. The journey through a year in the Himalaya reveals a world of breathtaking beauty and brutal hardship. From the silent predator navigating its vertical world, to the dedicated crane raising its young against the clock, to the industrious pika preparing for the long winter, each story is a lesson in resilience. The future of this magnificent wilderness, the roof of our world, now rests in our hands. Its survival, like that of its remarkable creatures, will depend on our wisdom, our foresight, and our respect for the delicate balance of life in the high Himalaya.